welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon. And today I have a very special guest all the way out in Tennessee working on a sensational project I'm excited to learn more about because there's just so many different elements within this ecosystem that they are tackling. We have Bradley Stevenson with the Syscoin Foundation. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Very busy. These are very busy times for I think for everyone involved in blockchain, but in a very good way.
Oh, absolutely. And what's cool about this, especially during bearish times, as someone who's building during this time, it's a time where you can actually put your heads down, not really worry about the noise, and really get to building. And I'm sure there's several things that you're going to be able to unpack on that in a moment. But before we do that, first, we want to learn a little bit more about you, Bradley. Can you give us some background on yourself?
Yeah. Relevant to blockchain. So I first heard about Bitcoin sometime in 2011. And, that's back when only the nerdiest people or the fringiest people knew anything about it. I tend to stay out on the fringe, and I am a little bit of a nerd. But, I was subscribed to a newsletter of someone you're probably very familiar with, which is Cliff High. I was just really curious about his stuff. It's really interesting. His reports on his linguistic analytic reports. Called Alta Report back then. And he was the first person that I heard mention Bitcoin. I couldn't quite wrap my head around it completely. It sounded very interesting. I do have a background in IT, an enterprise background in database development, as well as just sort of across the whole spectrum of IT. But even then, I couldn't quite grasp Bitcoin because it was such a new concept. I had actually thought a little bit about, the possibility of digital currencies before I ever learned about Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And I had sort of an ascent towards what would probably be, what is now called the double spend problem, and once I ran into that in my head, I was like, oh, there's no way, so like I didn't even go in any further once that kind of dawned on me. But anyway, I heard about Bitcoin and I became very interested. And I continued to learn about it as time went on. I finally sort of got involved, a little more in like owning some Bitcoin and sort of, just generally more involved in blockchain around 2014, right? So I did miss out. I always look back and I'm like, man, I really should have bought some as soon as I heard about it, But I think everybody says that, right?
Of course.
And new people will probably continue to say that
until the end of time.
Yeah, right. So, I came across Syscoin and was pretty impressed with the project. Especially with the lead core developer, Jag. I came across Syscoin. This was about like late 2016. Mm-hmm. And I just liked a lot of things about the project, the mature approach to design. They were acknowledging a lot of big issues with blockchain back then, like the scalability problem. They were willing to redesign the protocol in light of some of these revelations that they had really before a lot of other development teams had the same revelations. I liked the vision. I got more involved, and I think it was like in 2019 that I was voted on to the Syscoin Foundation Board, which is a registered nonprofit based out of Netherlands. And our mission is to, we have sort of a general mission, which is to help promote the adoption of cryptocurrency and blockchain, advance the tech. But of course, our primary focus, in doing that, of course, relates to Syscoin. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that background. The fact that you were able to know about Bitcoin back in 2011, but even the fact that you got to purchase back in 2014, well ahead of the curve of most of the people listening to this show right now. And of course, we all wish we bought more earlier, but it's also just a quick reminder that no matter where you are in the timeline of crypto, there's no time like today to figure out a way to get involved with projects that make sense to you. So Bradley, now as you talk about, it becomes 2016, you get to figure out what Syscoin is, and you're like, okay, this is the ecosystem I want to be a part of. So you've been with the system, you've been in this ecosystem for 6 years now. So first, explain what is Syscoin, what was the premise of it, and kind of what has it evolved to today?
Yeah, so in the beginning, Syscoin was very focused generally on making blockchain more useful for people, for real use cases. And they were very interested in use cases beyond just simple value transfer, right? Which is what Bitcoin is amazing at: simple value transfer and primarily secure store of value. But Syscoin wanted to do some other things. They wanted to have some hard-coded smart contracts. So the first discussions around Syscoin, like the beginnings of the project, like this was like back in 2013. In 2014, the first version of mainnet was released. I think that was it was in June. Nevertheless, and it included an on-chain marketplace, like some hard-coded smart contracts for aliases, which are the early form of what we now refer to as like decentralized identity. They had certificates, which now are what would be called NFTs, right? So they had these kind of very specific hard-coded smart contracts that were not Turing complete. Like I don't want to get too technical, so I want this interview to relate to everyone and everyone to be able to walk away with some value, whether they're an expert or a novice. So like guide me a little bit. If I get too technical, pull me back in, or if you need me more technical, let me know.
I'll rein it back in, and I'll ask for specific things for you to go in a little bit deeper, just in case.
Okay, so I don't want to stay too far on the past with Syscoin. What ended up happening is all of this was before Ethereum, right? So Ethereum went mainnet with Turing complete computation and everything. It was realized that there was a huge scalability problem just generally with blockchain. And so what Syscoin began to focus on was making a secure layer one that does what a layer one is supposed to do, what it's intended to do, which is to secure those transactions in a decentralized way, where that transaction will exist on that blockchain hundreds of years from now, right? As long as the network stays up. So, so that's what we began to focus on. They began to cut away a lot of the fat, make a very efficient blockchain. The developers really had a knack for identifying design characteristics that would solve multiple problems in one elegant sweep, right? So one of those very important characteristics is merged mining, and what that enables is for Syscoin to inherit the proof of work network, the mining network of Bitcoin. And a very significant portion of its hash power, where those miners can take the work that they've already performed mining Bitcoin and essentially present that work as a voucher to Syscoin to create a block and receive Sys as a reward. So we provide some extra incentive to Bitcoin miners to continue mining even after the 20.999 million Bitcoin are mined. In addition to Bitcoin fees, they'll still have an incentive to continue, supporting Syscoin. That's a very important aspect. It's green because we're not requiring them to spend any extra energy. Yet we're currently inheriting around 20% of Bitcoin's hash rate, right?
Wow.
So we're Bitcoin merge mined. What we've become today, now with any VM having been released December the 6th, is a platform that supports Turing complete smart contracts exactly as they're supported on Ethereum. So anyone can take their Solidity code or what have you. If it's running on Ethereum, it will work on Syscoin. So we have a dual chain architecture. If you imagine Syscoin, it's essentially a system of systems in more ways than one. If you think of Syscoin as a large sphere and with two smaller spheres inside, all right, one of those spheres is our Bitcoin-based UTXO type chain, where we're merge mining. The other is an Ethereum-based EVM And we leave both of those models intact, right? Because they're proven. Bitcoin is the proven security standard. Ethereum is the proven standard for Turing complete computation in a decentralized way. So we don't want to violate those. They work. They're very well proven, right? But there's a lot of things that can be improved upon. So we keep those models intact. And in that larger sphere of Syscoin, we create interplays through protocol adaptation, where these two different paradigms can sort of play off of each other to create new strengths. So with the Ethereum model, it's inheriting that Bitcoin proof of work as a means of settlement, of secure settlement. And it's able to take advantage also of advancements like ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, all these scaling solutions that are really on the cutting edge, thanks to some of the amazing work of academic researchers into cryptography, right, which is very necessary, and particularly for scaling computation. And then on the other hand, we can take advantage of Lightning networks and things like that on the UTXO side, and we bridge them with a trustless bridge, so people can move their assets between both, right? So we can take advantage of the best of both evolutionary tracks of Bitcoin, and we can add to it, right? So we can create a lot of synergies. For us, synergy isn't just a buzzword in a boardroom meeting, right, where you're getting lectured. It's an actual thing that we do, right?
Which is important. And real quick, I want to make sure I unpack all this and make sure I'm following. So what Syscoin is able to do at a layer one protocol is to take the best of Bitcoin and Ethereum and be able to wrap them at a base layer. So with Bitcoin being able to essentially use its security and being able to use these kind of microtransactions that still wrap into the block for Bitcoin, so that you are still getting some of the hash from it. So it's still secure and you're still being able to move a little bit faster. So you're getting that greatness of that world. And then you go to the Ethereum side of the spear, if you will, the two spears within the layer one protocol that you have. And within the Ethereum side, you can still have the scalability piece, because a lot of things are still being built on top of it. You can now use the ZK rollups, which are a great scalability layer that's being built on top of Ethereum, and you are able to handle more transactions than you would necessarily on the Bitcoin side. Is all that kind of together? Are there any pieces that you would wrap in there?
We actually do have some interesting scaling characteristics on the Bitcoin side through some innovation that we did with something called ZDAG, which is where we utilize the Bitcoin mempool as a DAG, which it basically is. There's just some tweaks that we've made in that regard, as far as forwarding double spends and just generally making nodes very quickly, all nodes very quickly aware of all transactions. So we have some throughput solutions sort of on the Bitcoin side as well. But yes, the scaling with ZK rollups is really the future. And the big thing that NEVM, which for us, that stands for Network Enhanced Virtual Machine, our NEVM, introduces smart contracts to the world of Syscoin, and it introduces smart contracts to the world of Bitcoin security.
Which is great, which are two vastly important pieces of the equation. Now, the other piece of this equation that I'm curious about is when you think about layer one protocols, a lot of the big issues that come up when you think about Bitcoin and Ethereum is that their layer ones are very slow. They only do a limited amount of transactions per second. How is Syscoin going about solving that particular challenge?
Yeah. So going back to what I said a little bit ago, which was our focus on the layer one doing what it's best at, which is decentralized security. Syscoin's layer one purposely, as far as the EVM goes, is not particularly high throughput, and it's not designed to be that way, and it doesn't need to be that way. And the reason why is because rollups and other layer two scaling solutions are where the users really belong. The settlement, the settlement of maybe aggregated computation or things like that, that belongs on layer one. So users will have the ability to essentially have almost like a Web 2 experience as far as performance, as far as just the general user experience, while you're taking advantage of the benefits of blockchain, thanks to layer 2, right? So Web 3 will act in all the right ways and all the good ways, a lot more like Web 2 very soon. And the layer 1 really needs to be focused on providing reasonable fees, and very, very good security. And that's what our layer 1 is designed to do. So with that in mind, we have a 2.5-minute block time, right? And now in the world of smart contracts, when you tell some people that, they're like, that how can you even, like, what good is that? I can go to Ethereum and it's like 10 seconds, and this other one's even faster. And well, with the layer 2, it's going to be even faster than those are. If that's the intention and the purpose of that particular layer 2, it can be as fast as you need it to be, right? If you got the computation resources. So the layer 1 is focused on security, and the layer 2 abstracts that layer 1 blockchain away from the users, so they don't even have to think about it, but they get all the best of it, right?
Right, and it's interesting play, right? So a lot of layer 1 solutions have various reasons, applications, as you were saying. If the goal is speed, then there are some out there that do a whole lot of transactions per second. If the goal is security and scalability, it could be potentially slower. So it sounds like in this scenario, Syscoin has gone the route of security first, point blank period, and then layering on layer 2 protocols on top of it, so that you can then get the speed aspect and other things that can contribute to making a seamless process. Like you're saying, with it being like a Web 2.0 solution that a typical user is used to experiencing, they won't skip a beat. But underneath the hood of how everything works, there are some elements that might be slower, but with it being more secure, you're getting the full package of keeping up with what your everyday person uses, the experience. You're not really missing anything. Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as long as the security mechanism of the layer 2, whatever developers come along and, develop a layer 2 app, as long as their security is decent, is good, the users don't really have to worry about layer 1 at all. It can be fast, and then they can have a good time and with their experience, and know that in the background at some point, whether it's 10 minutes from now, whether it's 3 hours from now, when the rollup decides it wants to group everything together and do a succinct settlement, they'll know that layer 1 transaction will be there, and that their data is secure.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's really easy to have a super fast L1. It's really hard to deal with it blowing up in your face.
Yes. Which is unfortunately a lot of reoccurring challenges that are coming up for some fast layer 1 solutions that are out there. But something else that I want to kind of dive into here with you is for people who are listening right now, they're like, okay, this sounds interesting. Who would be ideal to come in and start using Syscoin? Is it your developers? Is it someone who has a project and you're looking for security and layering solutions? Like how can someone come on and immediately start using Syscoin?
Well, one thing that's good to know is, in EVM, our EVM blockchain is 100% compatible with anything on Ethereum. So if you've got Solidity code that you want to port over, you can. As far as rollups go, we're very kind of focused on Matter Labs' particular approach, which is ZK Sync 2.0. We like it a lot because it's open source. We're open source, and we just generally like a lot of different things about that. So one thing that's good to know is transpiling is available with ZK Sync. So you'll be able to transpile your Solidity code to work with ZK rollups as soon as ZK rollups are rolled out publicly. Now, as far as specific types of projects, I mean, really anything that can work on Ethereum and more. So if you're looking at like metaverse applications, if you wanted to look into the future at things like like Internet of Things, or or if you just really dag nabbit, you just really want to make that dystopic Internet of People thing work, you can do that too on Syscoin. The scalability is there, right? With
right.
rollups and everything, and the way we've designed it. So smart cities, all of those kinds of things. Now, when we talk to projects, which we've been talking to a lot of people lately, we kind of we help them assess what's best for them. We're like, do you want to launch on our layer 1? We do need like some DeFi primitives and things like that, of course, which, by the way, our first DEX, our native DEX, launched today and went public. It's called Pegasus. So there's that.
Congratulations. It's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. It is a big deal, and we're very excited about that. But what we do is we try to help them assess whether they belong on layer 1 or layer 2. And the vast majority of projects that come to us, we really kind of push them towards layer 2, as far as just the development approach and what they offer their users. They really should be focusing there, because very quickly that will be the future that everyone's looking to. So we want people to be ahead of that curve. And one example of a project that we've helped quite a bit with that was Mute.io. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but that is a DeFi, that is a privacy-oriented DeFi suite that is designed for ZK rollups. And I think they're almost done with their development. But our lead core developer advised them quite a bit a couple of years ago when they were running a blockchain that was a Dash fork, I believe. And we pushed them towards ZK rollups and helped them understand the benefits of that. So let's see. It's getting a little bit dark in here. I was relying on
sunlight.
On the sun. Yeah, on the sun. So if you'll hold on just a second, I'm going to turn the light on over me.
Sure.
Okay, now we have light.
All right. So you just brought up a lot of different things and ways that you're working with these different ecosystems, and they're looking at potentially coming on to layer 2. So, as we're kind of wrapping up here, there's 3 things I always like to kind of ask you about. And the first one is just like, as you look out into the future and you see, we're at the beginning of 2022, a lot of exciting things happened last year. And I think there's a lot of things that are pointing towards us getting closer to crypto mass adoption, especially after something like the Super Bowl going on. You have a lot of money being spent around crypto and acknowledgement that this is here to stay, and et cetera. What do you think is going to be crucial to the future of crypto, especially as it relates to layer 1, layer 2 protocols?
Just time, because it's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable that, blockchain and just generally distributed ledger will really form so much of how we see the future and what our future will be. I would say the last time in history that there was something that you could even relate to being as relevant as this goes back to the days of the Crusades of the Knights Templar. And the only reason I say that is because they are thought to have come up with the idea of fractional reserve banking, right? Which I'm not very fond of, but that's essentially that was essentially an evolutionary leap in finance and money. This is even more significant than that. It's going to completely change how people think of value. They're going to think in the future much less about money and a lot more about value, because so many different forms of value will have the functionalities that people expect of money in a digital age, right? So Yeah, we're in for some absolutely amazing times, and the quicker that you can get involved and get familiar, and spend time on this, you can really reap the rewards. And we're talking about multi-generational rewards. We're talking about legacy, giving your family a legacy, building a future, passing something on, passing a vision on, and giving your family the ability to help make that happen. That this is being put in your lap. You just need to pay attention, learn about it, and take advantage of it.
Absolutely. I think that is a good tidbit. It's still early. There's still a lot coming on, and there is a lot of opportunity that can change not just your life, but the lives of future generations. So, Bradley, if you could take all of the information you have right now and could impart 1 to 2 pieces of wisdom to yourself when you first got started on Syscoin, what is some knowledge that you would drop to yourself?
Be patient, because it doesn't happen overnight. Now, we live in a world where things are moving very fast. Blockchain moves really quick. You can fall behind, and your project can become obsolete in a year or less. If you're not really staying on top of things, especially now, it's really beginning to snowball. So I would say, I would have told myself to be a little bit more patient. If you see something in a project, an ideal in a project, and that really you relate to it a lot, and you see the developers working hard and they're continuing to work hard, then always remind yourself of what made you like that project to begin with, and kind of stick with it as long as you see the work being done. And I would encourage people to get involved more with projects. Don't just hold an asset and expect everybody to do the work for you. It's really much more healthy psychologically for you to get involved with the project. Help out any way you can. I mean, I'm sure there's something almost anyone can do, whether it's just spreading the word a little bit, but when you're actually contributing to the value of an asset that you're interested in, it really helps you sleep at night, rather than, like sweating bullets, wondering if someone else is going to make your asset more valuable, right? That's not the way the world is supposed to work. We're supposed to contribute value to the world if we want to truly be happy.
For sure. I think those are 2 great things. Be patient and be involved in projects that you see the work being done. And if you want to see the success of something, then don't sit on the sidelines, become involved. And so I think those are really 2 great takeaways. And Bradley, as we wrap up here, man, I always like to finish up with what is a final thought that you want to leave with everyone listening here today?
If you got a family, try your best to love them. Our time here on planet Earth is pretty short in the grand scheme of things. Do the things you love, and try to treat people, the way that you'd like to be treated. And that's all I have to say.
That is a great final thought. Nothing to add there. Well, Bradley, thank you so much for spending some time with us. What are ways that people can connect with you and learn more about everything going on with Syscoin and the Syscoin Foundation?
Yeah. So my own personal Twitter account is BSTR156, Syscoin.org. Also on Twitter, follow us at @Syscoin. Jump into our Discord, our Telegram. The links are, on the website and on our Twitter. We have a great community. We're an OG project. A lot of OG blockchainers know about Syscoin. A lot of new people are starting to learn about Syscoin because we've really been following through with with pushing some exposure, and it's really been fantastic. Our tech is really starting to shine. It's been a long plan that we've followed. It's been a long road, and things are coming to fruition, almost exactly the way we thought that they would. It's been great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. We'll appreciate you dropping all the knowledge you did. Everyone, make sure you go and check out Bradley and everything going on with Syscoin. And of course, for everyone listening, stay cryptocurrent.